Hey, it's Jazz at Red Panda Reads, and today I'm going to talk to you about all the books I read in the month of April. Before any of you ask, no, I do not play the drums. No, I am not cool. Yes, in every single Zoom meeting recently, because my desk is over there, people have said, awesome, you play the drums, and I'm like, no. And then I don't even have a cute dog in the background to make things better. So the first book I want to talk about, I cannot stop thinking about. I finished it last night and oh my goodness, I am being haunted by spirals. And yes, that book is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. Junji Ito is a Japanese horror manga author, and this is the second of his books I have read, and it was incredible. I need to be really careful about what I say because I think some of the best bits about this book is not knowing what is going to happen, because it's mad in places. You think he's taken it to a certain point and that he can't push the boundaries of what he's doing any further, and he does. So this book was released as a weekly series back in 1999, and I would not have guessed that this book was kind of that mature. It's about a town in Japan which has been haunted by spirals. Yes, spirals. And it starts interacting and basically taking over the town and the people in it. And you will start reading this book and you will start seeing spirals everywhere on my floorboards, kind of graffiti on the side of the street near where I live. I was like, there's spirals. You look at the marks on my glasses, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're going into spirals. Just everywhere you see is spirals. I was dreaming about spirals. And what makes this book so horrifying and so, I would say, immersive is how cleverly Junji Ito uses his medium. So there's parts in this book where the main character may be opening doors or maybe opening something, and you don't know what's going to be in that thing until you, as the reader, physically turn the page. So it's like you are there within this story opening the box, and then you see what's inside and you feel like you're there and experiencing it. And I'm going to show you some of the artwork without any spoilers, but you can just see some of the absolutely incredible but somewhat grotesque artwork. Let me find a... And you can kind of, to give you an idea of, like, everything is going into spirals. Smoke, yeah. A town contaminated by spirals. I would 100% recommend his work. Amazing. The next book I read was also a horror book, and it was Slade House by David Mitchell. So this is the first David Mitchell book I've read, and I've been recommended him, but I didn't really know what to expect. And I have a feeling that this book complements Cloud Atlas, another one of his books, really well, and I think I would have got more out of it if I'd read that one first. But saying that, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I read it, but I wouldn't read it again. Slade House is about a house called Slade House, which multiple people get invited to, and then something happens to them. And you see this story being repeated again and again to different people, to different personalities in different situations, until you kind of finally find out why this has been happening. One thing I found really difficult, especially with the second character who is a detective, was lots of the language which is used is quite, I'm going to say visceral. It's quite visceral and repulsive. His descriptions of, from everything to the scenery, to other people, to the sex, is just horrible. And it's really emotive and also really sensory. Like he plays, when he describes things, he plays with lots of different emotions such as taste and smell. And it really made me feel uncomfortable. Costume change. Actually, I just forgot to add something. So another thing about David Mitchell's writing is each of the stories is set about 10 years apart. Well, 9 to be precise. And all the characters are so individual and clearly distinguished from each other. The language he uses in like such a short amount of time, and the way he makes the characters think and perceive different people and themselves, creates really strong characters with so little words, which is fantastic. And talking about that language, which I really hated, was particularly in the chapter where there is a very misogynistic cop in the 80s. He is racist, he is misogynistic, he is just an awful being, and out of all the characters in the book, he is the one who goes into Slade House. And like, of course you don't want anything bad to happen to anyone, but you don't really care about him and you're not gonna miss him as a person. So I thought that was fantastic, and it was really interesting also to see the kind of cultural differences every 9 years and to kind of see progression within our society, which was pretty cool. I found the end a little bit dissatisfying, but I enjoyed the premise. The next book was another translated book. After my sudden realisation that I had read so few translated works, I have been trying to read some more because I think it's good to read books from different cultures rather than from just the UK or America. And so I read Strange Beasts of China by Yan Ji, translated by Jeremy Tyang. This book was great. I'd not heard of it before, and the premise is super interesting. It's written in the first person, and you follow your female protagonist, who is a writer in this fictional world in China, where she basically talks about and writes stories about the beasts who humans now live beside. And each chapter discusses a different beast. And let me just read something from the first page to give you an idea of kind of how you get introduced to these beasts and what the beasts are like. Sorrowful beasts are gentle by nature and prefer the cold and the dark. They love cauliflower and mung beans, vanilla ice cream and tangerine pudding. They fear trains, bitter gourds and satellite TV. The males of the species are tall, with long mouths and small hands, scales on the inside of their left calves and fins attached to their right ears. The skin around their belly button is dark green. Other than that, they're just like regular people. So all the chapters start like that, with a little introduction about the beasts and then saying they're just like regular people. So this has a lot of commentary on society and how we behave and how we treat people and what we consider to be beastly and how we may discriminate against certain people. And each chapter, as I mentioned, talks about a different type of beast, but as you explore each chapter, you find out more about your protagonist and how she got involved writing stories about beasts, and her story gets intertwined with that of the stories that she is writing. And I think it'd be a really good book to reread because I think, as I mentioned, there's a lot of commentary about society, and the first time I read it I was a lot more absorbed in the story, and I'd like to really take a step back and think, what is this discussing? I think it would be a really interesting book club read for anyone out there who's got book clubs, and I would really recommend it. Yeah, it's really good. So the last 3 books are in a series, and I am about 4 hours from finishing the final one. I've been listening to them on audio, so that's why I know how long. They have been a real solace the last few months because I've been really struggling with my reading. So I've still read, if we're including audios, I've still read nearly 6 books this month, but I found the process of sitting down, picking up a book and reading really, really difficult, and I do not know why. Because once I get into it, I really enjoy it. So having audio tapes have been fabulous, and I got into the Scythe trilogy, and it was exactly what I needed. I really, really enjoyed them, and well, I'm still enjoying them, and yeah, it was just the type of very easy to get into book, fun concepts to explore, really lovable characters, and I needed that. So Scythe is a young adult science fiction future series. It's basically set in our future where an artificial intelligence has basically meant that everyone in the world can be happy. There is a universal basic income, everyone can have a job if they want, everyone is fed, everyone can do what they want to do, and they don't die. So this is where the Scythe come in. To stop overpopulation, the Scythe's job is to kill people permanently. So normally it's called gleaning, but normally in the world, if you were, for example, to be hit by a car, you could just be revived. But if a Scythe gleans you, not kills, gleans, you're gone for good. And there's loads of like quirky things in this book where people misremember sayings from the past or struggle with the idea of murder. And for example, you know the phrase no pain, no gain? There's a bit when someone's going no pain, no paining, no gaining? Oh, I can't even remember. Anyway, he made that phrase sound like a Shakespeare quote, and I just found that hilarious. It also deals with some quite horrific murders and like mass gleanings and yeah, and I guess torture, but like it was what I needed. It was, despite dealing with all these quite serious issues and these interesting concepts, it's a really comforting and nice book. I now sound terrifying, don't I? I would really recommend the series. I think it's just a lot of fun and I adore the characters. Those are all the books I've read. I hope you enjoyed this little run through of my April reads, and I will see you very soon with more book reviews, more book talks, and of course occasionally monthly board game recommendation videos.